What's up, everyone? It's the interview queen Alicia Toot here, and be sure to watch True Heel Heat.
You already know what time it is, man. The young goat in the building. Make sure you tune in to True Heel Heat podcast.
Alright, this is Danhausen here, very nice, very evil. You are watching True Heel Heat. Probably should have had MJF do this, but here we are.
All right, hello, True Heel Heat. I'm the AEW World Champion MJF. Just in case you're deaf, dumb, blind, stupid, or since you listen to this podcast poor, you're listening to True Heel Heat, and I apologize for that.
Hello. It is me, your True Heel Phenom, SP3. We are live on the True Heel Heat YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter for AEW WrestleDream 2024 preview. Breaking down the card for this coming Saturday from Tacoma, Washington, the Tacoma Dome. It's going to be AEW's second annual WrestleDream, and we're here to break it all down. And surprise, surprise, who I brought with me this time, it is not our usual suspect, our good brother from the Wrestle Purists and Late Night Grin podcasts, Joe Hobart. He's dealing with some stuff. But I had to bring in a heavy hitter. I had to bring in someone who's knowledgeable about all the graps, even though you see him as the MC of the past, present, and future here on the True Heel Heat YouTube channel when it comes to New Japan Pro Wrestling. He dabbles in the elite, the all elites of wrestling. My good brother himself, J-News. How are you doing, good sir?
Doing all right, man. Doing all right. Don't get to talk the AEW graps often, but you know, I am always welcomed here on True Heel Heat as per SP3 and the rest of the gang. So as I usually do, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is I, your good brother J-News, and we back at it again. And we here talking, what we got now? 10 matches? Do we only have 5?
11 as of this morning. 11. I love how AEW always is able to do it. Always is able to do it. Pack the card, especially for the shows that don't have the strongest belts. They always seem to to put together about 10 to 12 matches on these cards.
I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like the discourse is always one way or another nowadays with the internet. Somebody's got to have something to be mad at. People are mad because there's not enough time to let these feuds cook. We don't have the card 3 weeks ahead of time or whatever the case is. Look, guys, people are juggling many different things. Take it for what it is. Enjoy it for what it is. We all know AEW pay-per-views are always good money to be spent on. Yes. So at the end of the day, if we only have 5 matches coming into yesterday, now today we got 12, we on the right track.
So seems about right by AEW standards. Seems about right. But yes, we appreciate y'all for joining us live. Appreciate y'all if you're watching us on demand. Remember to show your appreciation by the simplest way possible. Drop the thumbs up on this video. You can share this video with all your wrestling fans, friends, and family on all your favorite social media platforms. If you are new to the True Hill Heat YouTube channel, great time to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell to stay notified for all the great content here. We've been a couple of days straight, a couple of weeks straight of content every single day here on the True Hill Heat YouTube channel, especially with our live streams. We had Bad Blood coverage last week with the preview, the review, predictions on the flagship podcast as well. And we're doing the same for WrestleDream. We got our preview for WrestleDream today. We kept AE Ramble in its usual spot on Thursday. So if you want to get an in-depth review and recap of AEW Dynamite Title Tuesday from last night, we will have that for you with me and Jimmy Rackaram tomorrow, 1:05 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll also be dabbling in with some highlights of WWE NXT from last night as well. But we had to do our pay-per-view preview and give you a couple of days to absorb it, to watch it while you can before Saturday's big show in Tacoma, Washington. But we appreciate y'all if you're joining us live. Appreciate y'all watching us on demand. If you're watching on demand, let us know in the comments down below your predictions for AEW WrestleDream. If you're watching us on Facebook, drop a thumbs up, a like emoji, an angry emoji, a heart emoji, a laughing emoji. However, WrestleDream's card is making you feel, and our predictions is making you feel. Let us know with those emotes. If you're watching us on Twitter, drop a heart and retweet the video. It helps out the algorithm over there. But most of all, if you're with us live, sound off in the live chat. We love to interact with all of you guys. Hear your predictions, your hot takes for AEW WrestleDream coming up this Saturday. And of course, if you're feeling generous, you want to give back to what we do here and help the train keep moving with the True Hill Heat YouTube channel, your super chat donations is the most important thing you can do by hitting the $sign, showing some love to us on screen. The contributors get most of that super chat money along with YouTube, but also you can hit the join button and become a member of the True Hill Heat YouTube channel for just $1 a month, or become a Patreon backer at patreon.com/True Hill Heat to keep the train moving. We got a lot of people in our chat already. We got Hassan who says, let's roll up for AEW WrestleDream preview. He's rolling up a blunt, smoking a blunt. We got trees in the background on our thumbnail, so might as well roll some trees up. We got Eric Isaac who says, hey, THH, can't wait for the return of Swerve. That was one of the more exciting things that they announced last night for WrestleDream. I was like, confirmation that Swerve is coming back and what it could mean. We're going to give our predictions on what we think it could mean for the WrestleDream card on Saturday. Someone who's not too positive about it is Ricky, who said sub SP3. And no, that's not AE Ramble, Ricky. It's Jimmy's tomorrow. He says, and Jimmy, he meant J-News. He says, what a below mid-ass Dynamite. Crowd suck too. Damn. He's feeling, saying it with his chest. Join us back tomorrow and we could talk about it.
Man. At the end of the day, everybody's allowed their opinion. I completely disagree with Ricky, by the way, but it is what it is. You know what I'm saying?
I disagree too. I didn't think that the show was. Only thing a part of Ricky what I agree with is that the crowd did suck.
It was low. It was low. No, I ain't gonna lie. Spokane wasn't popping, but you can't win them all. Can't win them all.
Can't win them all. I disagree as well. I didn't think it was a mid-ass Dynamite. I've seen mid-ass Dynamite.
Yeah,
and they don't have matches like Hologram and Commander on it, and they don't have the main event stuff and the stuff with the Don Callis family. I think that was probably the most entertaining stuff on the show for me last night.
Shouts to Willow on her promo and freaking
yes,
Mariah. That was a good shot for her. So
yes, I agree. And it had 2 women's matches. So I can't call it a mid-ass Dynamite because then Ricky, we got to understand we are playing with a very emotional person who is online a lot, talking about Tony Khan. So we can't call it a mid-ass Dynamite because it had 2 women's matches. And if we call it a mid-ass Dynamite, we might not get 2 women's matches on Dynamite for a while.
I mean, maybe. Look, man. Look. I can't call it. You know what I'm saying? They're doing the week thing. But it is what it is. I feel like, look, like I said at the beginning, we're in for a great PPV. At the end of the day, AEW knows how to do pay-per-view better than any wrestling company out there right now, under my own opinion. And yesterday's show was solid, man. I'm not gonna say it was great, but I've seen like to SP3's comments, I've seen worse also. I mean, I felt worse during certain dynamites too. So it's like, yeah, this wasn't that bad. This wasn't that bad.
Yeah, I will say though, if you want some criticism, this is going to be it for me. The real hard criticism. I'm just going to get it out on Front Street before we even get into our thoughts on the card and on this pay-per-view on Saturday. I think after last night, I think I lost J-News. He knew I was about to be harsh. So I'm going to be harsh with all of y'all, and we'll hear J-News' thoughts on it when he comes back. But I would say after watching last night's show, and like I said, I thought it was a solid enough show, not a very good show, not a great show, solid enough show in Spokane, Washington. The crowd sucked, but the product that they put out there was solid. But overall, this is the weakest, the worst pay-per-view buildup that we've seen from any show from AEW this year. Revolution had the 2-month build from the beginning of January into March, and with Sting's final match, the whole Hangman and Swerve in the world title program with Samoa Joe, that was a great build to Revolution. Out of Revolution into Dynasty and the whole new era, new feeling that we got with Ospreay and Danielson building up to that, Swerve building up to his big world title victory, Willow building up to her TBS championship win. That was a good build-up. Double or Nothing is probably the only one that I would probably said at before this build started was the weakest, even though it had very, very good build up for the main event scene with the Elite building into Anarchy in the Arena, and the angle with Tony Khan, the angle with Kenny Omega with the Elite beating them down. That was a pretty good build to Double or Nothing, even though I thought it was on the weaker side with everything else outside of the main event. It was a pretty good build up overall for Double or Nothing. I thought Forbidden Door was another pretty good, even though the main event was well built with Swerve and Ospreay. All In is right up there with Revolution as far as one of their best builds, whether it be the MJF heel turn leading into his big matchup with Ospreay, and the Mariah May heel turn on Toni Storm to set up that big matchup for All In. Danielson putting his career on the line against Swerve Strickland, and the work that he put in that month ahead of the pay-per-view really built up the anticipation that it was the biggest show of the year. And then All Out with 2-week build, I thought was better than the bullshit that we got on the build to this. This literally was like, okay, I'm in high school. I got a history test. I got a math test. I got an English test. Oh shit, I forgot about science. And WrestleDream is science. That's what it felt like, Tony Khan. Tony Khan was the kid in school that had a test here, a test there, a test over here. He had Grand Slam here. He had the 5-year anniversary here. He had getting the TV deal and celebrating the TV deal over here. And then he was like, oh shit, WrestleDream. I totally forgot. Here you go. And then he hands in the paper, and that's what we got for this card. This is the weakest build to any AEW pay-per-view in 2024 in a year that has been exceptional all around for AEW pay-per-views. Whether it be the numbers, we went over all the numbers. Literally every pay-per-view except for All Out that hasn't been confirmed the number yet has done over 100,000 buys. So I think that if WrestleDream does over 100,000 buys, it's just based on the fact of the reputation of AEW pay-per-views, not on the build-up that we got. This has been the weakest build-up because it feels so haphazardly put together. So I had to get that out the way. J-News, we lost you. You come back. But what do you think about my opinion that this has been the weakest build to a pay-per-view for AEW in this year?
It always comes to the forefront when, especially with wrestling, because it happened with Raw also this week, the rush job feel, right? How everything just feels rushed because something new gets put into the context of whatever is going on with the company or the talent or whatever have you, and things of that nature. And I don't disagree with you. I think that the build to this show has been poor. The in-ring action will never falter in AEW. That's just my own personal opinion, and it'll never falter. I just feel like to the point you were saying that the build being weak and all, they have to be able to have a better grasp of how to transition out of their pay-per-views, right? You can't have like they'll have like a small inkling on something, and then the following week might not follow up, and then the week after that is 2 weeks out from the next event, and then they'll drop something in there or whatever the case is. It's like a lot of things there. It's very choppy. It's very inconsistent. I again, I'll say this here because I said it on my other pod on Sunday. This specific storyline with Stokely Hathaway and Chris Statlander. I know people online are harping on it about it as well. But I feel the same way. Like what happened there? The explanation we were given to me wasn't suffice. It didn't do anything for me. I know you have to find Mercedes someone to have a feud with, but we're not even having that at WrestleDream, so they're slow cooking that. But then we're not even getting Camille versus Chris Stat, so it's like, what are we doing with that necessarily? So that's inconsistent. Obviously, I think Tony was busy trying to iron out this whole new deal with DG, getting him re-signed back to AEW last minute as well, because he didn't want to lose him to WWE. Obviously, how they're supposed to be bringing in Bobby Lashley eventually and things of that nature. Will Hobbs is cleared to come back now, so there's a lot of stuff that he's trying to juggle at this point, which is why, to your point, he lost focus on what the hell's been going on with this build for this event, because he's got a lot of shit on his plate and whatnot, and then having to pivot because quote unquote Britt was sick, having to pivot with the women's match, making it a fatal 4-way last night. So it's like it's a lot of pivoting for somebody, and there's no consistency there. So I think that I know it's hard to have contingency plans in professional wrestling, but like you have to have at least a plan A through G coming into week to week basis, and I feel like he doesn't. Right, he'll do something on the fly. We'll get a banger match, but from a building storyline perspective, there's no satisfaction. Right, so it's like he's got to do better there with that.
It feels like the top of the card, there's some direction. The guys like Bryan Danielson, guys like Will Ospreay, guys like Swerve Strickland, Jon Moxley, they have a long-term direction. But everyone else, 80% of the card is built week to week, and it feels so haphazardly put together. And I've said it once, I'll say it again. Check out a Collision Discourse this week, because I spent like 40 minutes complaining about the whole Stokely Hathaway being separated from Chris Statlander. That shit makes no fucking sense. It makes no fucking, and the whole women's division has really fell apart as far as long-term storytelling since All In. It felt like the culmination of the women's division was All In, All Out with Mariah May and Toni Storm at All In, and the Britt and Mercedes that didn't turn out that too well, and then All Out with Willow and Stat. That felt like the culmination of long-term storytelling with the women's division.
I feel like there's you mentioned Bryan, Will, Mox, Swerve, and Hangman. I feel like there's a I don't know. Yeah, this is my perception of it, right? I don't have any information. I'm not freaking Sean Ross Sapp out here giving you guys news and shit like that. But it feels like those guys have a certain sense of ownership over their builds and storylines. In contrast to the other talent on the roster having to depend on whoever's backstage necessarily, right? And then not necessarily having ownership of what's going on, because it just seems like, well, these guys' storylines are going well, but everybody else's shit is kind of like inconsistent. That's the feel I get. I don't have any info saying that's the case. That's just the feel that I get. Because to your point, and it's not only with Stoke, the whole stop and start shit, it's a lot of talent at the end of the day. They have that stop and start feel, and it's like, but why? And in my head, it was like, it just makes sense to have a stop and start feel if someone's depending on someone else to create a storyline for you the whole entire time out, right? So it's like, I feel like it's one thing for the talent to pitch ideas to creative backstage and things of that nature or whatever, but maybe it's a respect thing. Maybe it's I'm not going to say guys have been in the industry longer, because even guys who've been in the industry for a long period of time don't have that sense of control over their storylines in AEW. So it's like, there's a certain sense of ownership, I feel like those top guys, those top acts have over the storylines and builds than all the rest of the roster does. So I don't know if it's more of a initiative thing with talent in the back, or if it's just becoming too much, right? So it can be several different things, but that's just the way that I see it when it comes to AEW. And that's just it's a criticism, but I'm, you know, at the end of the day, I still enjoy the shows by majority. So it's like I'm sure we'll get something, because we still have what's the next event after this one? Full Gear, and then we'll have the end of the year show at that
World's End with
End.
I think that I'm hoping that because Full Gear is one of their like matriarch the big four, the original four pay-per-views that they had, that we'll get a better build going into Full Gear. But honestly, I'll be honest with you. Last year, WrestleDream was introduced, and it had a stellar card.
Sure.
I actually was looking at our preview for last year, and one of the first things I said on that show was, "Oh, this has been a great build, because I'm looking forward to a majority of the card for last year, whether it was Darby, Christian Cage, whether it's Bryan versus ZSJ, whether it was up and down the card. Like, they just had FTR and Aussie Open. They just had multiple different matches that you were looking forward to, and that made up for the fact that this was an added in pay-per-view. But this one, it really feels like y'all should have just kept it as a special show for the 1-year anniversary of Antonio Inoki, and not made it a regular part of your pay-per-view schedule, especially if you had 3 straight weeks of special editions of Dynamite that you had to worry about, and you had the TV deal being made in between. Then I think that the year overall would have felt better, and I would feel better about the build to Full Gear if you didn't have WrestleDream here and smack dab in the middle of everything. If they just would have went 2 months from All Out to Full Gear, I think Full Gear would have benefited from that type of build than this haphazardly put together build to WrestleDream. I
would say I agree with you. And there's a way to go about this in a certain way, which I think Japanese wrestling does very, very well. Anniversary shows are anniversary shows. At times, they're used to continue builds and storylines. By majority, they're not. They're just there to have shows, celebrate someone. I mean, they're just there to have matches, celebrate whoever they're trying to celebrate for that particular show, and then they walk on from there and do whatever they got to do. So if WrestleDream is going to be an anniversary show, having to worry about a build isn't always going to be a necessity. That's the way I would put it to folks. Because there was if we're going to take it from a comparison standpoint, right? Like the Brody Lee tribute show that happened on Dynamite, right?
Yeah.
No, there was no, obviously it was a tragedy. There's no build. There was no continued storylines. It was a special show honoring the life and the memory of a fallen member of the roster. And it went off great. And it was a one-off show. It's just, the premise of it is that's the way you should do an anniversary show, is what I'm saying. You celebrate whoever you're celebrating. In this case, it's Antonio Inoki, his legacy, what he brought to professional wrestling and things of that nature. You don't have to do any builds and storylines that go into it concretely and whatnot, because it is just an anniversary show. And if you want to leave it for a Saturday Collision, you get with WBD and say, hey, give us a 3-hour block one day and just make it a special show. Cool. You know what I'm saying? The fans will get that and not necessarily expect, hey, what's the storyline going into this? No, it's an anniversary show, y'all. We just celebrating. You know what I'm saying? So if they made it more like that, I think fans would be a little bit more forgiving in that sense. But now, to your point and everything that we've been saying for the last couple of minutes, it's just been a poor build because it is a pay-per-view. And the point I initially thought, and I haven't said, and I will make now, is that the scheduling for the pay-per-views, I think, is just a bit off at this point. With the way that the scheduling for the pay-per-views is, it just doesn't allow them enough time to process these builds that we as fans anticipate for certain matches. You know what I'm saying? So, the way that they do All In to All Out, to me, is still horrendous. Like, why are we still doing that? Like 2 weeks after.
But I said it, I think before while you were out, I think the build to All Out was better than this.
That's fine.
They immediately came off of All In, and it felt like All In, All Out 2 weeks apart it very much feels like 2 weeks between night 1 of WrestleMania and night 2 of WrestleMania. Because it's very much one a half. If you look at it like that it's like 2 night, their biggest shows of the year is 2 weeks apart. I think you have a better perception of it, because I think that both shows delivered in their own right, where one was a very much the happy ending show and the other show was the violence and we are the alternative show.
Yeah, I mean that's a good way to perceive it, especially with those two particular shows, because they go, to your point, they go hand in hand, right? I don't know, the build's been weak. They've been trying to figure stuff out. Obviously, they've given us all this new stuff to take in. Somebody in the chat mentioned the whole Jake the Snake and Archer and LFI thing, or whatever the case is, how that got dropped on us all of a sudden. And they've been trying to find something for Lance Archer for a while now, right? That's a story within itself. They've been trying to find something for Lance Archer. And they brought Jake back to TV, which surprised the hell out of me.
Same.
And
he re-signed. He re-signed this year.
Right. Yeah, correct. Yeah. He did. They just hadn't had him on TV. And then as long as you pay attention to all of AEW TV shows, you understand what's been going on with, at least since last week, what's been going on with LFI and stuff like that. They just got Mortos into the fold. They beating down on Hologram and things of that nature. And I guess at this point, they felt it necessary to get them a mouthpiece. That's the only thing that kind of threw me for a bit. And I was like, now you want to get them a mouthpiece? And I was like, you fired Jose because of what? Now I was like, it's like, all right, well, whatever. And mind you, obviously they're not going to put freaking Abrahantes with them and stuff like that, because the dude's considered a joke. So it is what it is what it is there. So, and I thought about it just from my long history of watching pro wrestling. And I was like, this is a unique combination. And I was like, Jake the Snake Roberts is a legend in this business. And the way that he cuts promos is completely different than anyone else in professional wrestling history. So how he's going to help this group, I want to wait and see. And how Archer develops under Don Callis is going to be whatever that is at this point. I'm kind of tired of the Don Callis family thing, but we'll see how that works out. But the point being, they're dropping all this stuff on us right before pay-per-view. And it's like, what am I doing with all this shit? What am I doing with all this? And then we got to get this 2 out of 3 falls. This is a match of WrestleDream, 2 out of 3 falls, Mortos and Hologram and stuff like that. That's going to be a banger. Big props to the Lucha to the Lucha congregation over at AEW for doing what they've been doing for the last month. They've been killing it. Man, it's I guess it's a lot, dude. It's a lot to process at the same time. It's not fluid, man. It ain't fluid.
It's not. That's the issue, is that it's not fluid. And if you watch week to week, you're just head scratching a bunch, and that's not what you want from something that's supposed to be, we expect a certain quality from AEW, and we haven't been hitting that the last couple of weeks. I think coming off the heels of really Grand Slam, which was very haphazardly put together with the whole confusion of Bryan's not incapacitated, so let's do Moxley and Darby. And then 25 minutes later, Nigel's challenging Bryan for the same show. That was haphazardly put together. This whole pay-per-view was haphazardly get together. All we're asking, Tony Khan, get your shit together. We do have James Hayes II, one of our newest members of the channel, as well as a Patreon backer. He just read up. He's been a Patreon backer for a while, so thank you. Good to see you, James, in the chat. And we do have a super chat donation from our good brother, I Make Beats. Thank you, I Make Beats. Good to see you in the chat today. Missed you on Collision Discourse. We did it on Monday this week instead of Sunday. He says, I get what you're saying, SP, but I enjoyed the show. Those promos from Ospreay and Mox were sick. In the words of Brian Keefe, class is in session. Like I said earlier, I Make Beats, you might have come in late, but I thought that last night's show was really solid. I'm just saying, overall, the build to WrestleDream it's been the worst of the year. I'm gonna keep it a buck with you. I'm always gonna be honest with what I think. I think this has been the weakest build to any pay-per-view in 2024 because 2024 has been probably one of the greatest years in AEW out of their 5-year history as far as pay-per-views on all levels. Yeah. The quality and the money that they've made. They made more money on pay-per-views this year than any previous year for AEW. That's the only part of their business that is up in 2024. Ticket sales are down, TV ratings are down, but the pay-per-views is up.
Well, there you have it. And they just got, they just signed that 3 years stamp deal, 4th year option. They got the more money coming in. They're going to be profitable. I want to see, because I know TK, regardless of what people may think, I know Tony Khan to be a good businessman. I want to see as to where he is going to invest this extra money outside of talent into the company coming into 2025. So we shall see how that all goes there. What is the good brother Alex Powell saying? Hobbs and Archer are going to be in a trio with Konosuke as they're facing off Ospreay, Fletcher, and the returning Davis if he's able to return. Davis is nowhere near returning, just so you guys understand. Hobbs, obviously, depending as to what they want to do. Look, I think the conversation of representation has been had more than enough between both brands, both when I say WWE and AEW. We gonna have some straight up black pro wrestling coming our way.
Yeah, because we speaking up. We speaking up. Yeah, we getting louder. And I like the fact that if you look at overall this year, AEW has definitely tried to address that.
Yeah.
They tried to address that. Now it's on WWE. It's your turn. Y'all got the rock now. Y'all hotter than ever. There's no reason for y'all to be trying to shit on your black talent, saying they're not good enough. Basically, if y'all want me to Google translate what Triple H was saying during the Bad Blood press conference, I don't see color. I don't see man or female. You're trying to say that you don't think the black talent are on par enough for your 5-match merchant acts.
Hey, man, at the end of the day, I'm not going to go into the interpretations of them words. All I want to see is more people of color on my TV because they represent me. The point I was trying to make with the AEW part of it is because obviously we got MVP, we got Shelton Benjamin, we know about Bobby Lashley coming, Big Will Hobbs is coming back into the fold and whatnot. Rumor has it, Pretty Ricky, his contract ain't up till 2025, so he got some time on his fucking contract.
Yes.
So bring his ass back to TV, if you will.
Please. And if you're gonna be petty and you're gonna make people do injury time, bring Lucha Bros back to TV and have them job to some people. Like, man, come on.
If because for all intents and purposes, I feel like the talent is there. We all know the talent is there. It's like just make the story. 1, make the storyline something that's captivating. 2, don't do the stereotypical bullshit. 3, the stereotypical bullshit is what I want. It's what I want to stay away from. Don't do the stereotypical bullshit. And 3, they don't have to be super serious either. I think as a people, we fall into that shit. That like the storylines have to be super serious. The dudes have to be at the top of the card, and it's like, chill. Like, let's just have everybody on TV. You know what I'm saying? Let's just have everybody on TV. As long as they're doing something, I'm all for it. You know what I'm saying? So, and plus, a lot of the acts still need, a lot of the talent still need some polishing and whatnot. So, if you have pros like an MVP, like a Lashley, like a Shelton Benjamin in the company, if you could put a Will Hobbs under them and stuff like that. I said this on some pod weeks ago. Like the thing that itches me the most is how, with Leo Rush being a regular on AEW TV, how is that interaction between Leo and Lashley going to be on AEW TV?
Yo, I need Hurt Syndicate to interact with this Top Flight stable. This Top Flight stable has their little story, and and this is another thing that I think that we get too out of bounds and out of pocket with our criticism of Tony Khan and AEW. What we're saying is you need to streamline some stuff and tell some stories and keep it coherent and stop booking it week to week. We're not saying that AEW doesn't have any stories because that's like the weakest fucking lame argument that I've heard. It's a false narrative and we need to stop that. AEW does have stories. They just need to do it better.
Yeah.
Some of them do need to do it better. The top of the card, the top 20 to 25% of the company, and then there's that 5% Chris Jericho. They always seem to have a story. They always seem to have something going on. But everybody else, the other 70 to 75%, need to have coherent stories and follow through on it.
Yeah, for sure, man. It's like it. I think it's because we're in a different landscape in pro wrestling, and because we can tie in characters from other companies and what they used to do there, and we can tie them into the new company that they're in. There's a lot of things that they can figure out. But to your point, make them coherent, right? Don't give me the one week like, yo, we just had this and then it's over type deal. Like, nah, man, like give me a couple of shows, give me a couple of weeks. If you don't want to do something into a pay-per-view, that's fine. Give us a big main event on a Dynamite or a Collision so that people can actually go and watch and then your ratings go up. Do that, right? Have your cycles per your program television, right? You don't have to have everything lead into the pay-per-view. You know what I'm saying? You can have spikes for your Dynamites and your Collisions and things of that nature. Obviously, Rampage is going to leave us after 2024, but whatever's on TV, leave it that way. But yeah, man, there's like I said, it's not messy. It's just it's random at this point going into WrestleDream. So it's like, all right, cool. I know everything's gonna bang. Let's see how it all works out. And yet again, I think we're not gonna get out of this cycle of randomness because there's gonna be even more people coming back from injury in due time. So it's like, I think we're gonna be stuck in this. We're gonna be stuck in this hole for a while.
I can't deal with this type of randomness booking and build for full gear. You got to get it together coming out of this pay-per-view, Tony Khan. That's what I want. But let's get into the actual card for this Saturday, Tacoma, Washington, AEW WrestleDream. As always, with our pay-per-view previews, J-News, from 0 to 10, what is your hype level for WrestleDream this Saturday?
It's a solid. I say a solid 6. Reason being because
I'm right there with you.
The solid 6. The reason we've been talking about for the last 37 minutes, man. It's just been a weak build. That's all it is. So that's all it is. I'm still gonna watch. We'll break the matches down and all that jazz. It's just a solid 6, just because the only story that I know that we're going into, we got Mox and Bryan. That's a solid story that we've been chewing on for a little bit here. I want to watch the Lucha stuff because those boys, they're gonna go crazy. More, shout out to my main man Frank Mortos. You know what I'm saying?
Frank Mortos and Associates.
Frank Mortos Esquire. Man, you know what? It boggles my mind how. And this is to the individual. Everybody has their own sense of humor, right? And people find whatever they want to find funny. But there's certain things that belong on TV. The Frank Mortos stuff should have been on TV.
That is hilarious, and I love it every time I see it on social media. And good point by Alex Powell. There's a lot of big names that still come back, and a lot of them ain't gonna come back in 2024. They're gonna come back like beginning of 2025 because you mentioned, Kenny Omega. I think will be here by the end of 2024. Adam Cole has been in the news more and more. He's gonna be here by the end of 2024. MJF's gonna be done with his movie by the end of 2024. I think Adam Copeland, it's more on the safer side to say the beginning of 2025, and then also with him, there's also Eddie Kingston, who's also should be back in the early part of 2025.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna. To be quite honest, Eddie being as old as he is, no disrespect, Eddie. Don't come at me, brother. I don't think we're gonna see Eddie till next summer. That's just me.
That's fair. That's also fair. That's also fair. I'm missing all of those guys.
Yeah.
I'm missing all of those guys. But let's get into the card. We do have. There was a spoiler alert, but I think that is a match that has been pretty much building for a while. That's going to be on the 0 hour and made official Friday night on Rampage. It will be the Acclaimed versus MXM Collection. That's been building for the last couple of weeks. So we don't have a graphic for it, but quick predictions on that one. What do you think wins? I think that's probably going to be safer to say on the 0 hour. Well, it should, because we have 10 matches on the main card.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt it'll be on the zero. Obviously, spoiler alert, it'll be on the 0 hour. How much of their feud has been on TV?
Well, a good portion of it
Good
because
portion
it's
of it?
been on Collision. It's been
Okay.
on Collision.
So that's why I by majority miss Collision all the time. So that's why I'm not like, okay, this doesn't make sense because I'm a Dynamite watcher. So at the end of the day, if I miss stuff on Collision and I miss stuff on Rampage, I usually try to keep up via the YouTube clips. But then I'm just shorted on it. The most I got out of the MXM collection stuff with the Acclaimed was at Grand Slam because I was there live. So I thought it was hilarious. I've been loving what MXM has been doing since they've gotten to freaking AEW. Those boys are so freaking talented. They're funny as
Tips
hell.
in the chat.
Yeah, tips in the chat. I think they're hilarious. They're super. They're very talented in the ring. They're super creative at that, man. So I give them that. So and this is something different for the Acclaim to be doing, right? So they're out of the whole title picture thing. They're no longer, messing with the Bucks and FTR and stuff like that or whatever. So yeah, as to like who's gonna win this particular match between MXM Collection and the Acclaimed, who benefits more out of a win in this particular case, right?
I think MXM benefits more out of a win, but I don't expect them to win. I think the Acclaim will get the win.
I feel like I'm gonna go with the boys. I'm gonna go with MXM Collection for the win here, just so we can get a different feel in the tag team division. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna leave that there. Yeah.
We got Alexander Fitzgerald in the chat who says, I'm not as excited for the card like I want to be, but I'm hyped to be there live. Yeah, that's what's up, man. He says, I've never seen Ospreay live, and if it's Bryan's last match as a full-time wrestler, I want to be there for it. That's how I felt about All In, Alexander. That was my number one reason why I wanted to be in the building at Wembley Stadium, because if it was going to be Bryan's last matchup, I wanted to be there live, and you being in the Washington area, I 100% understand why you want to be there at WrestleDream. And this is why we've been emphasizing the build to the show has been weak, but AEW, it's like a unicorn, the amount of bad pay-per-views they have. Like they've had last year was AEW World's End was a bad pay-per-view overall. Before that, I think their worst pay-per-view or the last bad pay-per-view you could consider was AEW All Out 2020. Like they went a good 2 years without a genuinely bad pay-per-view, or they've had weaker pay-per-views. A couple of the Double or Nothings have been weak, but like genuinely bad pay-per-view, I think it's been AEW World's End and AEW All Out 2020. Those are the only 2 out of 5 years. So I think that overall with this card, with the matches they've added, it will be overall a really good to great show.
Yeah, I mean, it should be solid. I feel like, yeah, there's a lot of things to do with this, but I feel like the show should be a good show. The match cards, the matches themselves, is like I said before, by majority we're probably going to get bangers anyway. So we'll see where we go from here. Hopefully, it's about 6 weeks in between WrestleDream and Full Gear is the name of the next event. Hopefully it's 6 weeks. And if it's not, then we're going to be in the same space. So it is what it is.
I think they got 5 weeks. We got 5 weeks.
That's fair. In between this
and Full Gear. So
hopefully there's no battle of the belts or whatever shows.
No, they always got a battle of the belts, but they don't care about that shit.
So we'll see how it all works out. But yeah, I think MXM should get the win here. Not saying that they're going to get catapulted into the title scene, but I feel it's going to give an overall different feel because now they're going to be spotlighted. It's not going to be FTR. It's not going to be the Bucks. It's not going to, I mean, Private Party's not being spotlighted, right? If Private Party gets spotlighted, MXM Collection they get spotlighted. They get thrown together into a tag match somewhere down the road. I'll be the first one to say, personal bias as it is, I do not appreciate the way that GYV has been booked since they got signed to AEW. But hey,
I literally, and I am one of the biggest Outrunners fans. But when they lost to the Outrunners on Collision, I was just like, God damn! Did Tony Khan just say, I don't fuck with y'all?
That to me was a little is a bit much. But we got time. So we gotta Gotta let it marinate at the end of the day. You gotta give the Outrunners their shine as long as they're at their peak. They did that with the Acclaimed. Obviously, FTR and the Bucks carried the division for a while. Obviously, what they had with Kenny and Hangman, that shit just feels like a fever dream now. You know what I'm saying?
They've gotten like lightning in the bottle twice with like the makeshift teams with Kenny and Hangman and Swerve in Our Glory.
Yeah. Oh,
they haven't tried to strike that iron again. Well, they did try with Ricky and Big Bill, but that didn't really work as well.
Shouts to Keith Lee, man. Hope the brother's on the mend and that he's at least healthy enough to live his day to day. You know what I'm saying? So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the other match that has been announced for the 0 hour, as it will be AEW WrestleDream 0 hour with Atlantis Jr. going one-on-one with Brian Cage for the ROH World Television Championship. As someone who is paid to watch Ring of Honor every single week and do the review over on Fightful's ROH post show with my good friend Kate, I was utterly shocked, and as she was, for this match to be made, because it got no build. Like you no build at all. Like Brian Cage, yes, he's gotten a couple of singles victory, but he has not had a promo or set his sights on the Ring of Honor Television Championship. These two men were the final two in the I think they did the survival of the fittest matchup at Death Before Dishonor in July, but they never followed up on it in any way, shape, or form. And then they just announced this matchup on Ring of Honor. I think it was last week. So what do you think about this one? I respect the fact that this is probably a move by Tony Khan being like, oh, you know what? We need more international talent on this WrestleDream card because that's kind of the theme of it. But this was another one. This was like kind of one of the key matches on this card that feels like the definition of the randomness of this card.
It is random. I think they'll piggyback off of what you just said, them being the final two contestants in that Soul Survivor Battle Royal, whatever that match was, and things of that nature. This is also a match. This is also a match that I feel is going to be a reset match. I feel like I'll put my prediction out there. I feel like along with Alex Powell, I feel like Brian Cage is going to win this match, bring the ROH TV Championship back inland and stuff like that. Because this is part of the problem when you have foreign wrestlers having a championship of a domestic company in the case of AEW. You need AEW talent with that strap. Like, first of all, Atlantis Jr. winning that strap was a surprise to begin with. And then secondarily, it's like, all right, Brian's been with the company since day one. Give him some freaking run. Let him do something impactful. If this ROH TV title can be an impactful run for Brian Cage, let him do something of significance here, and let him go with it. Because at the end of the day, it's random, man. It's freaking random.
I'm also going to agree with you guys. I'm going to go with Brian Cage as the champion. I've been very disappointed in Atlantis Jr. being the Ring of Honor World Television Champion because he came off of what I thought was one of the better under Tony Khan Ring of Honor television title runs of Kyle Fletcher. Yeah. Kyle Fletcher really elevated himself as Ring of Honor World Television Champion. And then Atlantis Jr., he is a CMLL talent. So I understand that he's going to spend most of his time in Mexico, but he just hasn't been around really for Ring of Honor or AEW. So it's time to kind of move on from that. And I think that you put the title on Brian Cage, who is always here, always delivering, whether it be on AEW, Ring of Honor. So give him the strap.
Yeah, I'm with that.
We do have another super chat donation here from Genesis J, the #1 J-News fan in the chat. He says, can't stay, enjoyed AEW. Here's some love, SP3, King J. Thank you so much, Genesis J. Always great to see you in the chat.
Always a pleasure.
But yes, let's go. We both got Brian Cage in the 0 hours, but let's go into the main card, which I think I counted wrong. It's 9 matches, 9 matches official. I was counting something else as a 10th match. So it's 9 matches officially for the main card right now. And this one was the latest made. It was confirmed this morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern by AEW President Tony Khan. Following up from last night's Title Tuesday, Hologram will go one-on-one with the Beast Mortos. Best 2 out of 3 falls matchup this Saturday at WrestleDream. Hologram has been on a roll on Collision, at currently standing at 14-0 in singles competition in AEW. He's picked up a victory previously against the Beast Mortos in what was, I think, by far his best singles matchup in AEW since his debut this past summer. But Beast Mortos has been a very kind of in-demand gentleman as of late. He's teamed up with, at the last pay-per-view, with the Shane Taylor promotion. He's teamed up on episodes of Collision and AEW Dynamite with the Undisputed Kingdom, but at Collision Grand Slam, after a dispute between him and Jericho during their awesome 3-way matchup with Hologram, Beast Mortos and Jericho were about to go at it when Roosh came out after teaming up with Beast Mortos and picking up a victory on Collision the previous week. He brought his brother and Mortos together. They jumped Hologram, and then they seem to be uniting under the La Faction Ingobernables moniker, but that got further developed on last night's Title Tuesday. Hologram once again delivering a very good matchup against Commander with one of the craziest rope walk powerbomb spots I've ever seen. Hologram picking up his 14th win in AEW, 14-0, undefeated in AEW competition, singles, tag team, or trios. And it was the Faction Ingobernables who jumped both men after the matchup, with Jake Roberts coming out after making a talent exchange with Don Callis, who had been recruiting Roosh into his fold. Basically, Jake Roberts, I guess he got the exchange of La Faction Ingobernables. He got a whole faction in exchange for Lance Archer. I think that Jake Roberts won that trade, but Beast Mortos has been delivering, whether it be in trios, tag team, singles competition, but Beast Mortos and Hologram just have excellent chemistry together between their match on Collision this past summer in Arlington. That was a show stealer. Their match on Collision Grand Slam was the best matchup on that portion of the Grand Slam card. And I think this one should deliver another awesome matchup. Who do you think wins? What have you thought about it's pretty good build-up. Like, it feels like it's put together, but there is a lot to talk about when it comes to these two in the build.
There's branches to this tree, right? to use a metaphor. There's branches to this tree because we're getting Frank versus Hologram, 2 out of 3, right? Let's say Hologram wins, right? You think LFI is going to take that laying down? Doubt it. Now, Hologram already beat Jericho, but Hologram and Roosh have not had the confrontation one-on-one. So if it takes the senior member of LFI to take out Hologram and finally give Hologram his first loss, it makes sense because they've gotten Hologram so hot off to this 14-0 start. So I think that's a story within itself. So for folks who might not be tapped in, so that makes sense in that particular estimation. But yet again, to a point I made earlier, I don't necessarily know how this Jake Roberts being the stick man for LFI is going to work, right? And it just more has to do not with the quality of the promo, it has to do with the style of it, right? Jake's a very quiet, he's reserved, he's menacing, he's very cerebral, right? LFI is really more like they're smash mouth, they punch you in the face, they do what they need to do, and they get in there. So it's like, I wonder how this combination is gonna work. And we'll go from there. But yeah, man, 2 out of 3 falls. I give this match to Hologram, even though I'm a big time backer of Frank. I got him on retainer too, much like
Frank the Beast Morto.
So at the end of the day, he gets us all out of jams in Guadalajara and jails. So that is going to work out. It's going to be a banger. I see a lot of comments saying that this match should go first to hype up the crowd. It's interesting how AEW does their opening matches, right? It's never necessarily the banger to start the match, the events all the time. So I don't know if this will go first, to be honest. I don't know if this will go first.
I think that it's more likely. I saw someone in the chat said this or another matchup, and I think it's more likely we get Darby and Brody.
And Brody?
Yeah.
Yeah. And when we get to that match, I have something to say about that particular match as well, or the goings arounds of it, should I say?
Yeah. I Make B says that spot with the airplane spin, Blue Thunder Bomb is great. The match on Collision was fire too. Yeah, I think this literally when this was announced this morning, I messaged the True Hill Heat chat and I was like, yeah, they gave me another match that I'm looking forward to because these two, like I was raving about their Collision matchup when they went one-on-one. I was raving about their 3-way matchup at Collision Grand Slam. So I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, man. This is gonna be a banger, man. It's gonna be a banger.
Yeah. Vala B, this isn't AE Ramble, good brother. We got AE Ramble still on Thursday. We didn't switch nights just because AEW want to switch nights. We want to give Jimmy some time to at least watch the highlights of NXT. He said he's gonna watch AEW on Wednesday, like he always does. He didn't want to watch it live last night, and he's gonna watch some highlights from NXT so we could review both shows tomorrow for you, 1:05 p.m. Eastern time. And yes, Vala B realized he's like, wait, this is the review. Yes, we're doing it early in the week because there's no AEW Dynamite tonight, so most of the card is known. Usually we would have to wait till Friday because AEW don't announce all the matches for their card until the final Dynamite. But last night's Dynamite, we got a 9-match card already, so we can.
There's no Collision on Saturday, so we don't have any. So we don't have any other extra shows coming to set up any of the matches.
I'm gonna agree with you though. I think Hologram goes 15-0, but we really I know he's now in an actual rivalry, which was something that I've been asking for. You know, I do Collision Discourse every week, and I've been following along with Hologram, and I've been a fan of him since his debut against Gringo Loco in the summer. But I was wanting him to either get a title match because he's on. We get so much in AEW. Person wins one match and they're in title contention. Yeah. This guy has gone 14-0 and he still hasn't got a shot at a title. So I do like the fact that they put him in a feud against LFI. But I'm gonna go. I think that if he wins here, you could still keep him in the feud with LFI, but you should also give him a title shot. And maybe LFI is the reason why he gets his first loss against Kashiko Okada in the Continental title match.
I think we might end up seeing. This is me prognosticating. I feel like we're going to end up seeing Hologram in that international title picture. If
I can see that.
If I'm being clairvoyant enough, I think he'll end up in that particular picture. And he's also a good look. Treat it as you might want to. Take this for what I'm about to say with a grain of salt or whatever. I feel it would be a best practice for Tony Khan to use the Lucha Brothers in this sense to even heighten Hologram's status even more, right? If they're going to be on their way out, put on some bangers with Penta, put on some bangers with Rey Fenix, continue the Lucha graps for the fans and give him more to do because you have the talent to do it with at the end of the day. So I feel like that would be a good play to have them intermingle in that as well.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Next, we got the match that I think a lot of people are not happy is on this card. For the Ring of Honor World Championship, Mark Briscoe will defend against former Ring of Honor World Champion, the Ocho, Chris Jericho. Jericho has been basically in a feud with the conglomeration since All In. He lost a matchup to Orange Cassidy a couple of weeks ago on Dynamite. Then it was the conglomeration versus the Learning Tree in a Tornado Trios matchup at Collision Grand Slam, where Jericho took advantage of Big Bill chokeslamming Mark Briscoe through a table and picked up the pinfall victory over the Ring of Honor World Champion. On last week's Dynamite 5-year anniversary, Jericho challenged Mark Briscoe for the Ring of Honor World Championship, trying to become the Nueve, which Mark Briscoe accepted, saying that this would be one of the biggest wins of his singles career. But Jericho says that he doesn't think that Mark can beat him because he thinks that maybe Jay could, because Mark is not as good as Jay was, talking about Mark's deceased brother in vain, which led to Mark punching him in the mouth. On Title Tuesday, it was Mark Briscoe who said that he's going to hurt Chris Jericho for making it personal by bringing up Jay, while Jericho in the Learning Tree decided to play some mind games with Conglomeration's newest member, Rocky Romero, and trying to basically convince him to turn on the Conglomeration, which Mark Briscoe is the leader and mouthpiece of. I did not feel the Jay Briscoe line was necessary, was earned, or worked for me. It did not work for me. It has no basis because Jericho never worked with Jay Briscoe. If this was Jay Lethal saying it, this was Roger Strong saying it, Bryan Danielson, Claudio Castagnoli, someone that has some type of history with Jay Briscoe, it would have made sense. It would have been earned. This didn't feel earned. It felt tacked on to try to get some type of heat and reaction from the fans. And I understand in Mark Briscoe's mind, if you're accepting of this and you wanted to do this, or you gave the word you were fine with this, I understand in his mind, yeah, Chris Jericho and the name and the legend, the legacy of Chris Jericho is probably the biggest matchup that he's gotten since signing with AEW and Ring of Honor, and definitely one of the biggest singles matches of his career. But Jericho is by far, in my opinion, top 2, top 1 worst television character in professional wrestling today. And I'm saying that as someone that was live on air on this channel, saying how much I enjoyed the Learning Tree gimmick when it was a wink and a nod in the late spring going into the summer. But the length of the Hook feud into this feud, which feels like a rehash because he spent most of this feuding with Orange Cassidy, who we already feuded with 4 years ago, Jericho has turned into channel-changing act right now. And I don't like the fact that, yes, Mark Briscoe is one of my favorites. I do the impersonation of Mark Briscoe, got a little salt in my beard, conglomeration. Love doing the Mark Briscoe impersonation. I love Mark Briscoe in general. So I'm happy that he's on this card. I'm just not happy who he's paired up with.
Yeah, man. To echo your sentiments about him, about Chris Jericho being TV turning a character. He was used as the bathroom break at Grand Slam. There was a chant in the men's bathroom that started. You can ask people who were there during the Jericho match, and it was hilarious. But anyways, I will say this. I completely and wholeheartedly agree with your take about the Jay Briscoe line not being earned. It's interesting this far into life and how often I watch TV and movies and things of that nature, and always wondering how critics and things of that nature always came up with that term. This particular character didn't earn that line, or didn't earn this particular action in this. And now I finally fucking get it. It's like, nah, he didn't earn this shit at all. At all, brother. You never freaking wrestled Jay Briscoe. You never in nothing.
You never even worked with him.
Nothing.
Never in the same company with him.
So for me, in my mind, it's like, to your point, if it would have came from a Bryan, a Claudio, Jay Lethal of all people, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, that makes sense, you know? But in this case, this is just throwaway. To your point, Jericho is just not watchable for me at this point. Can I credit Jericho with helping of the build of Big Bill? Maybe. Has he done wonders for Brian Keith?
He's got him TV time.
That's
TV
about
time.
it. Right? I mean, and Dusty always said this. You got to maximize your minutes when you're on TV. And Brian Keith is doing that, right? Every time he's on TV, he's either making a funny quip and things of that nature. So if Jericho is allowing Brian Keith to get TV time, cool. But for all intents and purposes, this match, that promo, none of this stuff works, man. None of it works. And for the legend, the Froggy Boat legend himself, man, Mark Briscoe, you know, I want better for him, man. I really, really do. He's got the ROH champion. Give him something of substance that'll work. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't always got to be some hardcore shit. Like he's a good in-ring performer. So you can give him something different. You know, I would have loved to have seen maybe a match between him and Shane Taylor. I don't know, something to.
Shane Taylor done challenged him for the Ring of Honor World Title like 3 months ago, and they just said, you know what? No,
it never happened.
Actually do this Jericho thing.
Yeah, like that to me is like it's mind-boggling, man. You have all this different talent that you can use from ROH to push them up in ROH, and you have your ROH champion. Use the ROH talent. Don't use Jericho. That Jericho shit is it's not what they think it is at this point. And I think the feel is like, well, as long as he's getting heat, we're gonna keep him on TV. And I was like, nah, this is old school X-Pac heat. This is that go away heat. Like people don't want to watch this shit.
This is Vicky Guerrero heat.
Yeah, people don't want to watch this, man. Like it's not good anymore. Like to your point, even when it started, I was like, what is this shit? Like I don't.
But it was a wink and a nod kind of thing.
Yeah,
they're booing me. They're telling me please retire. So I'm gonna ham it up and I'm gonna act like I'm the babyface. Hi guys, hey guys. And I was up on here and I was like, hey, he embraced what the reaction he's getting, and he's trying something new. He's trying something different. And then slowly but surely, he became what he was winking and nodding.
Yeah,
and he got overexposed.
Yeah, it's okay to go away and come back. You don't have to be on the injured list. You don't have to be sick. You don't have to have a contract dispute with the owner. At the end of the day, like, yo, bro, go take a vacation. Go tour with Fozzy for 3 months, man. I don't care. Get the fuck off my TV so I can at least miss you some, so that when you come back, you get some sort of jovial pop or at least a good reception. People just don't want you on TV right now. No one's asking. I'm not asking you to. I'm never going to ask you to retire at the end of the day. Just get off my TV for a bit. Let me miss you down the road. You know what I'm saying?
It really feels like Tony Khan is worried the roof will cave in if he doesn't take.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
It will not cave in. You got a new deal. You got a new TV deal. So there's no excuse anymore. Get him off our TV.
Yeah, not in 2024. I would have understood it in 2020 or even 2021, but not in 2024. He's not a necessity. Not right now. So yeah.
I'm gonna hope. No, you know what? I'm gonna go over my heart, and I'm gonna think with my head here. Unfortunately, Chris Jericho is gonna win this match.
Nah, I'm not. I'm going Mark Briscoe.
I'm convinced at this point that Tony Khan thinks the roof will cave in. He's doing this program, and he's redoing all these different feuds that he did before. He redid the whole fucking Orange Cassidy feud. That Orange Cassidy already moved on from there. He got his notoriety, and that was when Jericho was still of value to AEW, and that brought Orange Cassidy and introduced him to a whole new group of fans and made him into one of their popular baby faces. But I really think they are trying to redo the whole Claudio Jericho program from 2 years ago, and Jericho wins here, and then Mark's going to win it back at Final Battle.
Why are we rehashing stuff with all this goddamn talent on the damn roster? I don't understand. I don't understand. I'm going with Mark Briscoe to retain, and this is in different ways, right? If this is supposed to be personal, cool. It'll be personal to Mark Briscoe. But if Chris Jericho is being out of line, there's been hints at it for weeks now. If they finally turn Big Bill, this is a good place to turn Big Bill. Bill get the pop. He help out Mark Briscoe or whatever the case is to retain his championship, and then Jericho can do something new with Big Bill, and then we take it from there. And Brian Keith,
that's going to be 2025. It's going to happen at Final Battle, and it's going to be 2025. Big Bill turns babyface on Jericho.
That's that bullshit, but it is what it is, man. I'm going with Briscoe.
I'm not convinced. I'm not going to try to fool myself. I'm not going to give myself any type of false hope and think that Jericho's going to lose here, because I'm convinced Tony Khan thinks the roof's going to cave in without Chris Jericho.
No, we're not there no more, man. We're not there.
Now to go on to a matchup that I'm slightly closer to the fence on than not being. I'm 100% on the side of this should not even be on the card with Jericho and Briscoe, but I'm more on the fence with this one. Jack Perry will defend the TNT Championship against Katsuyori Shibata. It was at AEW Collision Grand Slam that Jack Perry made an open challenge that was accepted by NJPW legend himself, Minoru Suzuki. Perry was able to pick up the victory via countout, but after the matchup, he kept the assault on Suzuki until Suzuki's former rival, Katsuyori Shibata, made the save and actually embraced Suzuki after the fact. It was Shibata on last week's 5-year anniversary who challenged Perry for the TNT Championship, with Perry accepting after attacking Shibata from behind. And now we know that someone else might be in the running for the winner of this matchup, with the newly re-signed Daniel Garcia saying that he's after championship gold. Shibata had a brief segment with Garcia saying that if he wins the TNT Championship, he might want to face his former tag team partner, Daniel Garcia, a man that he also faced for the ROH Pure Championship last year. And Jack Perry cut a final promo on Shibata where he basically said that Shibata has a big dick.
Yeah. I was that took me for a bit of a loop, but it is what it is. I'll say this about everything else in that promo. I will still contend that Jack has gotten much better cutting promos. I think the backstage stuff and the vignette stuff is his bread and butter. So they've gotten that right with Jack so far. Jack's DIY approach to life is cool. That's part of the scapegoat character. So I appreciate that. I feel that this match is going to be, to your point, if Jack retains, then we're probably going to get, Jack versus Daniel Garcia down the line. What I hope this match is, with how crazy Jack can be, is that this turns into a full-on strong style match without headbutts. Because
he did reference that he wants the New Japan version of Shibata. He wants the old version of Shibata.
Right. So if we get these loud chops and forearms and things of that nature, and we feel like Jack Perry's getting the piss beat out of him, then that's the match that I want to look forward to at the end of the day. So we can make Shibata look strong as hell, even in loss, and then Jack gets to win out of left field, and then we go from there into hopefully a well-built feud between him and Daniel Garcia, who have taken very dissimilar roads in their young careers to get to where they have gotten to. So I want to go ahead and say that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the big moment for Garcia is going to be Full Gear. I think he beats Perry for the TNT Championship there. So that's why I'm going to go with Jack Perry to retain. Love Shibata, but he's just a guy who's losing. He's a jobber to the stars at this point of his career. We're lucky to have a Shibata here. Yeah. And I do understand why, to Alexander, who's going to be there live, it feels like a Collision or Dynamite match. But I mean, having a Japanese talent that's so much like ingrained in the Inokiism of New Japan, like I was shocked that Okada didn't get a match on this card. Like, if this is supposed to be an Antonio Inoki tribute or anniversary show, you got to have your guys like Shibata or Okada on the card here.
Yeah. So they at least got the wrestler to be on the match. I feel like we'll get a good solid 12 to maybe even the 15 minutes full of this match. And yeah, it should just be wrestling violence at its purest form. So yeah.
But Jack Perry gets the win for both of us. Mm-hmm. Now let's talk about a match that I was very excited to see added to this card last night as it was made official. It will be Switchblade Jay White going one-on-one with that Hangman Adam Page. It was back in July in the semifinals of the Owen Hart Cup that Hangman Adam Page defeated Jay White in a great main event of Collision to move on to the Owen Hart Cup final. In that matchup, it was Christian who cost Jay White the matchup, but in the match as well as the attack, it was Jay White who came up injured with an injured foot in the process. Hangman Adam Page has been running roughshod ever since then. After coming short in the Owen Hart Cup, he set his sights on screwing over Swerve Strickland out of the AEW World Championship, burning his childhood house down, and then defeating him after injecting him with some type of drugs in a syringe in the lights out steel cage matchup at All Out. He then put on his mission statement that he would get revenge on all the people that stood in his way on the road to getting revenge on Swerve Strickland, including Jeff Jarrett, who he defeated in the lumberjack strap match. Some of the people that he had some animosity against were lumberjacks in the matchup, including the Bang Bang Gang. After the matchup, the Bang Bang Gang tried to save Jeff Jarrett from more damage from Hangman, and he attacked Juice Robinson in the process, trying to hang him with the leather strap. That led to their one-on-one matchup at the 5-year anniversary, with Hangman picking up the victory thanks to a low blow and the buckshot lariat. After the matchup, he once again tried to hang a man with Juice Robinson, hanging him across the top ropes. And this led to the return of Switchblade Jay White for the first time in 3 months, coming back to AEW, getting a measure of redemption against Hangman, putting him through a table. Jay White picked up a victory against Cody Chun on last night's AEW Dynamite Title Tuesday, and then issued a challenge to Hangman. He said he is one of 2 problems that he has to overcome on his road back to the AEW World Championship. This will be Switchblade's first singles match back on pay-per-view since last year's Full Gear main event against MJF, and him and Hangman Adam Page have a great deal of history from their time in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Like I said, I thought their last match on Collision was great. They faced last year as well. Who do you think is going to pick up the victory here in their 3rd match in AEW? And this is really a matchup that's a toss-up for me, because I feel like both guys shouldn't be losing and that both guys need a victory here. So who do you think wins, J-News? And what have you thought about the build?
So, I mean, short build nonetheless, because Jay just came back. So that get that out of the way. Secondarily, I agree with Alexander Fitzgerald just put this in the chat, talking about this feud can last up until the end of the year, basically, if they want to structure it that way. Now, how do we get around neither guy losing here, right? Now, obviously, if there's a DQ finish, one guy technically gets the loss and the other guy gets the win. So how do you get around either guy having to lose this match? You get a match thrown out, right? No contest kind of a match. Or you do a Will Ospreay and Ricochet thing, and you have the double pin thing go down, and you declare the draw, right? So in this
or time limit draw.
Right, if they do it, if now, for example, depending as to what the time limit is, right, whatever the announced time is, if they give it like half an hour, maybe. If they give it 20 minutes, then I know it's like, all right, time limit draw, 20 minutes is more than enough. It creates it gives them the ability to create the story in the ring, continue it outside of the ring, and then we continue to take it forward. Look, man, I don't know if people have watched me long enough on True Heel Heat. I am a fan of the one they call Jay White, of the man they call the Switchblade. I feel like yesterday on Title Tuesday was the first time that they did the thing, as I like to say. They gave Jay White a live microphone right after a match. That is when he's best. That is when he's at his best. You can't have him do the vignette shit. You can't put him in a backstage interview. He is best right after a match. And they caught it, and he did the business. He did the thing. So at the end of the day, that's the way they should treat Jay White. Everyone should have their own idiosyncratic things for their characters. I think that's a thing that they should push forward with Jay White. If Jay White loses, if he wins, whatever, give him a live mic after the match is over. That's it. Because if people haven't watched Jay White before, like his post-match interviews in New Japan Pro Wrestling are of lore. They're legendary. What he was able to do after a match. So they did the right thing there. Yeah, I'm with you, SP. I don't think either guy can take a pin here in this situation. If I feel like we'll get to a point where the match gets so out of bounds, double countouts, or whatever the case is, or they throw the match out of no contest. That sort of a finish is what I feel will happen here, and they'll continue. They'll continue the feud because they don't have. I don't feel they have a necessity to continue the whole Swerve and Hanger thing for now, right? That's you can always leave that for later. They'll fight forever, as we know. You know what I'm saying? But there's no sense of continuing that now. Putting Jay White in a prominent program with one of their top stars, because for whatever people want to say, Adam Page is the main character of the AEW. So,
he's one of the best characters in wrestling today. Yeah,
so having Jay White in that light is a good deal for Jay White, and especially if it catapults him or propels him towards the AEW Championship eventually. So I think we all want him there for fans of Jay White. So I think this is only going to work into their benefit. So yeah, man, I think this will be a match that might get out of Jay White's element, but then he'll adapt into the element, and then he'll just take it to Adam Page. Adam Page will be confused about why Jay White hasn't answered to his madness, and they will, and eventually there won't be a definitive finish for this match. So I'm with you on that.
Yeah, I think that Jay White, I like the fact that he's putting his sights back on the AEW World Championship, because Jay White is one of the top guys in this company, and they haven't treated him as such. They try to put the blame on him for the bad MJF outcome of their storyline when it started off well because of Jay White, and it just fell apart because Mac wanted to try too many things as a babyface. Yeah. But I think that Jay White is one of the best. I think that this feud should be interesting because Jay White is in a something that he's not used to. He's the babyface in this storyline, so I would like it. I would like to see what he can do here. And like what's saying in the chat, a bunch of people saying Hangman is one of the better characters. He's one of the hot acts in AEW right now. So I think that they should put a focus on this rivalry. So I if I have to pick one or the other, I'm going to say Hangman gets the win, because they did kind of show in the matchup with Cody Chun, who was a jobber. He got some offense in on Jay White. So they could tell the story, a very New Japan-based story of Jay White just came back. He still has the rust on him. He still has the ring rust. And that's why Hangman is getting the win due to probably shenanigans, him using a steel chair, a weapon, a low blow to get the victory here. Or you do the time limit draw. I think those, no DQ, no count out. I don't like those on a pay-per-view. A time limit draw is probably the only non-finish that you can do on a pay-per-view, in my opinion. Like this one, especially this one that has a weak build, you got to deliver on some of these matches. I think a time limit draw, 20-minute, 30-minute, is enough time for them to tell a really good story, and the time limit draw is still satisfying because neither guy should be taking the loss here.
I definitely agree there. And when I was watching the match yesterday versus something Chun. I forget the kid's name. Cody Chun. When Cody Chun was getting offense, it reminded me of Jay White with the Young Lions. How Jay White would allow them to get offense, but then by the end of the match, he just stretch her motherfucker out, smack him around, lay him out quick, which is exactly what he did. He baited them to make sure that they get this confidence, and out of nowhere, switch or pull it. You know what I'm saying? And it's over. And that's exactly what happened. Props to Cody Chun for getting in that offense yesterday. You are now Jay White's young lion. So at the end of the day,
you're his young lion, his young boy. Get it done. I'm gonna say as well. We got a lot more people watching than at the beginning of the show. Remember to drop the thumbs up on the video if you want to show some love to the True Hill Heat YouTube channel and our preview of AEW WrestleDream. Send a super chat donation. Show us some love with that if you want your comment highlighted on screen for sure. And yes, we also should mention, like Ace said, Jay White, once he's done with Hangman, he does have unfinished business with Christian Cage. That's what he keeps alluding to, that he has one of two problems he has to solve. First is Hangman, and then he'll move on to Christian.
To your point, he's been alluding to that, but Christian Cage will be going into a feud with the one man they call Hook. So we'll see that. We'll see how that.
And Christian still has his contract.
And he still has that contract, which is obviously the way I don't know if Christian's gonna want to give it up, but it's a play for Jay White to get to the AEW Championship if needed for later on. So yeah,
and I'll be honest, I'd much rather Jay White have that contract
for sure.
than Christian. I love Christian.
I
love Christian, but Jay White should become one day the AEW World Champion. But yeah, there's a lot of interesting stories that they could tell with Jay White and Hangman in the months and weeks to come. But also another person who they have a lot of storyline development to have, and this match should provide some of it. It's Darby Allin, Washington's own, in Tacoma. He made the open challenge, and it was accepted by his former friend, longtime enemy and rival, Brody King of the House of Black. It was Darby Allin coming off the heels of Grand Slam, where he lost his shot for the AEW World Championship and his opportunity to verse a fellow Washington boy, Bryan Danielson, in the main event for the AEW World Championship. He made an open challenge, and he said that he wants to basically someone to make their name off of his back. So he called out anyone, and it was his former rival, longtime friend, Brody King, who accepted the challenge on Collision. It led to a promo exchange between the two men where they went over their history with one another, that Darby and Brody King have been friends for a long while, both men from the Washington area. And it was Darby who got Brody King his job in AEW after Ring of Honor closed down. Brody King says that Darby is his friend, but he can't be relied on to be the face of AEW. What happens when he tries to climb that mountain in Mount Everest? Is he even going to come back, and AEW will lose their face? So he wants everything that Darby has. This led to Darby telling Brody King to give him the kill shot, give him the roof. And Brody says that he would wait till WrestleDream. The two men got physical, with Darby pulling out a damn rock and busting Brody open in the mouth, showing how the depths that Darby will go to bring pain to his opponent and even his friends. This one, man, their history together goes back to 2022 in AEW. They had the series of matches with Brody last eliminating Darby Allin in the first Royal Rampage. Then they faced one-on-one with Brody King defeating Darby Allin, pinning him in the middle of the ring. And then Darby picked up a victory over Brody King in a coffin match at Quake by the Lake in 2022. This will be their third official singles match in AEW and in Washington State, where both men are from. Man, we all know with friends in wrestling, this is going to be physical. This is going to be hard-hitting. And it's Darby Allin, where Darby Allin is coming off one of his best promos ever 2 weeks ago with the challenge, with the open challenge that he made, coming off the heels of losing to Moxley at Grand Slam. I think this match has the potential to be the match of the night.
Look, man, I'm going to say this, and Darby Allin Darby Allin was under the learning tree of one of the greatest professional wrestlers that ever existed. And Darby Allin got good after Sting left fast. So I wanted to put that out there because Darby's promo style before Sting retired was much different than it is now, right? And he speaks with so much confidence and so much fervor now, and it's like, all right, I get who Darby is. Switch this around to a line that Brody King said in his promo yesterday, talking about Darby Allin, saying that man has a death wish. I said to myself, finally, someone said it, but in context, right? And it's cool. And yet again, Brody was super confident on the mic. He sounded menacing and everything. Because look, he's a menacing presence, but the voice has, the promo has to match the freaking body, and it did. And it's like, yo, Brody's a good promo. People need to let him talk and whatnot. And he did well. He defended himself well last night. This match is going to have a lot of visual violence to it. It's just going to, right? Because of the way that these guys are with one another. The visual of Brody King putting Darby Allin in a sleeper and hanging him off the apron is still seared in my head, right? And he's done it other times since. Yes. But it's like that original one, I was like, oh my God, what is he doing? But with how big he is and things of that nature, it's just I'm looking forward to this match. I wanted to make a point of this particular match specifically, and someone said something about this in the chat that I just read, how they wanted Brody to disband from the House of Black and go on a singles run. I feel like they're putting out the feelers here with the way they're doing this, right? I don't know what anybody's contract situation is outside of Buddy Matthews. Buddy re-signed, so he's not going anywhere, right? WWE's never had interest in Brody King, so I don't think Brody's going anywhere. Malachi's
CM Punk could work his magic.
Sure, but at the end of the day, I don't think Brody's ever had any beef on an AEW tip in that regard that I've ever heard of, right? Tommy's the one who's kind of like the waffle in the air. I don't necessarily know what's going on with him, what he wants, what he doesn't want. That's his business. It is what it is. I've always been a fan of the House of Black. I think they work very well as a trio and as characters. But Tony's never been able to pull the trigger with them or do anything of significance with them.
Fully commit. Fully commit.
Yeah, fully commit to them. Exactly. There you go. So Brody on a singles run, I wouldn't mind. But yet again, can we trust TK to book Brody King correctly? He doesn't necessarily book big men very well. So it's one of those things where it's like, all right, if we get a Brody King singles run, cool. But it's like, is it going to go anywhere? Is he going to dominate anybody? Is he going to be a long-term champion in one specific spot? Is he like, what are we going to do with Brody? Right? Because if he's no longer with the House of Black, or if we keep him in the House of Black and it's Malachi and Buddy on the tag team scene, I'm okay with that. Even though I'm one who love the Kings of the Black Throne. I rather that tag team and Buddy do the singles thing or whatever. But if we're getting Brody on the singles on the singles side of thing, how do we evolve Brody's character outside of the House of Black? Where does that go? Right? That'll be interesting. As per this particular match, who's gonna win? Tough to say. Reason as to why I say it's tough to say is because we already got rid of Darby's title shot. So Darby winning or losing here doesn't really make a difference, right? Now, if for all intents and purposes, if we're going to catapult and we're going to shoot Brody King to the moon, obviously Brody should win. But to me, it's up in the air. I don't necessarily know. It's Washington. Usually at AEW, the hometown guy gets the win. So, okay, by default, Darby. But I wouldn't be surprised if Brody wins this match.
I'm gonna go with Darby Allin to win this matchup, but I like you. I do agree with you. I would not be surprised if Brody King wins the match because I feel like Darby has worked himself into that upper echelon of guys that kind of are giving the ideas and Tony Khan will listen to. So I think that this is all on Darby, how this match was put together. He's someone in Brody King who he loves to work with, who's one of his real life friends. You know, you took Darby's title shot away, so he couldn't work with Bryan here. And I think this is his idea with the open challenge, with Brody King accepting that this is his idea, and maybe his full idea is let's elevate Brody King here. So would not be surprised if that happened. but I'm going to go on the safe side, and I'm going to go with Darby Allin picking up the victory here. And I think that the long-term thing by 2025 is Darby Allin, AEW World Champion.
He'll be one of 4 champions in 2025. I'll put it like that. Yeah.
Speaking of people from the Washington area, someone is returning on Saturday, and it is none other than the former AEW World Champion, Swerve Strickland. Swerve will be making his first appearance on AEW television since All Out and his loss to Hangman Adam Page in the Lights Out Steel Cage matchup. He has been very much mentioned a lot on AEW programming, though, since his absence. Of course, this started with MVP's arrival in AEW at Grand Slam, with MVP calling out Swerve's manager, Prince Nana, with his failure to manage Swerve, with Swerve losing at All In, the AEW World title, to Bryan Danielson. Then his house being burnt down by Hangman Adam Page, leading to Hangman beating him at All Out in the Lights Out Steel Cage match. And now we've had Shelton Benjamin show up as the head of the complaint department for MVP. And then we saw on last night's Title Tuesday edition of Dynamite, Swerve Strickland was shown training with EJ Nduka, who has been a part of his entourage for the last couple of months. They were training in the gym hard for Swerve's return at WrestleDream, with MVP and Shelton Benjamin looking on. I'm just going to put a percentage on it because I think it's pretty obvious what this is leading to. But what is your percentage you want to put on it, J-News? Because I think I'm at 100%. 0 to 100. Bobby Lashley debuts in AEW this Saturday. I think that this whole Swerve return is to lead to Bobby Lashley coming in, setting up a Swerve Bobby Lashley feud in AEW, and probably that's the matchup for Full Gear.
I'm with you there. It just what I'm always thinking forward. You're right. I'm with it. I agree. Bobby's going to show up during the Swerve Strickland segment. He's going to debut. The new Hurt Syndicate debuts. Is Swerve's play to put whatever he wants to call his new crew together? That Mogul Embassy shit was out of my freaking no. I don't want that crap back.
I mean, Mogul Embassy was better than Mogul Affiliates.
Sure. Absolutely. No doubt. Because the Mogul Affiliates, no disrespect to the Juggalos, but them motherfuckers look like some Juggalos. But, it is what it is. I just wonder if, because Swerve is such a, him and Hangman are parallel. They're lone wolves where they're at. They will team up with whoever they need to team up with for ends justify the means type thing, or whatever the case is, but they're always their own guys. So if the Hurt Syndicate comes after Swerve, who is Swerve teaming with? Right? Now I know Swerve at one point came to the ring with Big EJ. EJ's doing some work down in ROH. So I feel like that can be someone they pull up for Swerve's side, along with Big Will Hobbs. But we all know Big Will, you know what I'm saying? He's a hefty brother. He's a violent brother. Does he fit better with the Syndicate than he would with Swerve Strickland? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I don't know, because I don't think the Syndicate's going to stay 3 people. That's a part of the business card handing thing. It's not a tell for every person who's going to be a part of the Syndicate. It's not a tell. The Mercedes Moné thing, to me, it was funny because I was like, oh, CEO, no.
Big business, her business.
I get the joke. Her part of the Syndicate, I don't see it. You know what I'm saying?
I think the Syndicate needs to give a card to Athena. I said it on True Hill Heat. Athena joins the whole Syndicate.
That's interesting. But the whole Bobby Lashley thing is gonna be, Bobby gets catapulted to the main event scene right away, as he should. Yeah. It's Bobby Lashley at the end of the day. I just wonder where it's going to go. because we know it's not going to be one-on-one. It ain't just going to be Bobby versus Swerve. You know what I'm saying? Shelty B's going to get involved. MVP, first of all, he's kayfabing the fuck out of us. He don't need that K no more, by the way.
It's like a pimp cane.
Like a
Pimps
pimp
don't need that cane.
You know what I'm saying? He don't need that shit no more. He can go. He got the corrective surgeries. He's done the stem cells. He's ready to go, man. He wants to go. He wants to do one last run. MVP, that is. So, like I said, depending as to whoever Swerve gets to battle on his side, it'll be interesting. But yeah, definitely 100% Bobby Lashley debuts during the Swerve segment. How intense the segment's gonna get, I don't know. You know,
I think they just set it up where it's Prince Nana and MVP basically both trying to recruit Swerve. Swerve stays loyal to Prince Nana, and then MVP gives the signal. Bobby Lashley comes out, spear, and they take out Prince Nana as well. Hurt Syndicate stands tall with the OG members. And then down the line, I'm going to say, I don't think it's Powerhouse Hobbs. I think that the whole reason they showed that training video is EJ and Duka going to turn on Swerve and join the Hurt Syndicate.
Hurt Syndicate. Ah, interesting. Because another I forget what they freaking call it right now. Another thing that piqued my interest when I was watching it, the back and forth between MVP and Prince Nana. Prince Nana reminded not only MVP but the world that Prince Nana used to be a pro wrestler at the end of the day. So I was like, oh, that's an interesting Easter egg. We go see.
Are we going to get Nana and Swerve versus MVP and Lashley?
So this is interesting. This is interesting. I mean, I don't know when the last time Nana put the boots back on, but yes, he did absolutely. You know, bunch of showings on WWE TV and TNA and things of that nature. Obviously, ROH. Nana's been around for a while. You know what I'm saying? So if he's willing to put the boots back on, why the hell not make it interesting in that regard? Like I said, the third man. To your point. I think, but EJ's so new, right? That it's just one of those. Would it pop the crowd enough for EJ to turn on Swerve? Right.
I think that's what I said. They need the slow burn where we see EJ with Swerve like backstage, bringing him into the building. Swerve brings him out as like backup, and then after a couple of weeks, you have EJ turn on Swerve and join the Syndicate. Because sense. I feel like Hobbs is someone that doesn't need someone like MVP to talk for him and to learn from him as much as EJ does. EJ is newer to the business and he needs someone like MVP to guide him.
Good point. I agree with you there because Hobbs has been off of TV for a while, but before Hobbs was off TV, his promo work was at its best. It was up here. So I agree with you there. Depends on where they want to put Hobbs in then. Somebody brought it up. Is he still part of the Don Callis family?
Last he was here, he was.
Exactly. He was. To answer that question directly, the Don Callis family doesn't have much to do for me. I'm speaking for myself. I don't think it has much to do for Hobbs. Don't need him either, right? In that sense. So it's like, all right. So where you gonna put Big Willie Hobbs at? You know what I'm saying? Where does he fit in? So yeah, man, it's gonna be interesting. It's
gonna be very, very interesting indeed. But let's talk about the other final four big matches, big title matches on this card. And you got the Young Bucks, Matthew and Nicholas Jackson, who will be defending the AEW World Tag Team Championships against Private Party, Isaiah Cassidy, and Mark Quinn. Mark Quinn and Isaiah Cassidy have been on TV a lot and have become a focus on AEW television over the last couple of weeks. They were in the direct eyesight and the targets of the Blackpool Combat Club in their recent turn to the dark side, led by Jon Moxley, which led to Moxley saying that Private Party has been in the same spot for 5 years and gave them a little motivation by hammering Isaiah Cassidy's hand. And it seems like since then, despite coming off with a loss for the AEW World Trio Championship, it basically lit them up a little bit, and they decided to refocus on the AEW World Tag Team Championships. On the 5-year anniversary of Dynamite, they picked up a victory over Iron Savages and called out Matthew and Nicholas Jackson for a shot at the gold. The Young Bucks refused and jumped them with Jack Perry, which led to a 6-man tag team matchup with Private Party teaming up with Shibata to pick up a victory over the AEW World Tag Team Champions in basically a mirroring of their win from the second episode of Dynamite when they beat the Young Bucks 5 years ago. And then Private Party defeated Top Flight and House of Black to become the #1 contenders and earn this opportunity at WrestleDream. We've seen over the last couple of weeks, Stokely Hathaway has been trying to recruit them as a tag team and made his official pitch on Dynamite, which Private Party turned down, says, you wasn't shooting with us in the gym, so we don't accept you. We are focused on the Young Bucks, and they think they can do it on their own. Can they get the job done and pick up their biggest win yet in their first AEW tag team matchup on pay-per-view? That is crazy. In 5 years, this is their first tag team matchup on pay-per-view, but they're facing the greatest tag team in AEW history. What have you thought about the build to this matchup? What do you think wins on Saturday?
I think the build's been done well for this overall, because now we're spotlighting Private Party, and like it's been detailed, they've been with the company for 5 years. Where the hell have they been? It hasn't been. I don't feel like it's been start and stop with them. I just feel like it's meandered, to be quite honest. It hasn't really gone anywhere. So, for all intents and purposes, I feel like this match will be used as a story element. This Stokely Hathaway story is not going to go anywhere for now. I think that from what I've seen and what I've noticed, and it hasn't been directly said to the fans, but it seems like Stokely Hathaway is the manager to drive the edge out of whoever he's managing, right? So he doesn't have to stay with one person for a long period of time, right? I think that's the story they're trying to tell with Stokely. He's there for a bit, he gets them where he needs to get them to, and then he's on to the next one because he sees that there's more to these characters, these talents, than they see for themselves, right? And he gets them to a certain place. Now they're in that place. They go on forward, do what they need to do on their own, and things of that nature. I feel like he's going to do the same thing for Private Party. Private Party, even though they got a little bit more, I'll use the word umph to them this time around because they try to break Isaiah's hand and all that jazz, but they don't win against the Bucks here. Back to something you mentioned earlier. They haven't earned the win over the Bucks as of yet, right? They haven't earned that yet. So they'll have a dope match because the Young Bucks don't know how to have bad tag matches, and Private Party is still an up and coming tag team. They won't have a bad match, but Private Party won't win here. I have a feel that there's going to be some sort of a shady business dealing that had gone down with Stokely Hathaway, and he will manipulate his way into being Private Party's manager at one point, and they will need his services. I think that's what they're going to use, or by the end of this match, we'll get to that. From a story perspective and whatnot. So, it is what it is.
I agree with you once again. I think that the Bucks will retain the AEW World Tag Team Championships. This is another one that if it hits its peak, it could be a match of the night candidate. Mm-hmm. I think that Private Party need that type of matchup to really stand out and to really make sure that Tony Khan has some type of follow-up for them. Because if they're going to take the loss, they need to stand out and have a show stealer type matchup for Tony Khan to be like, all right, now I can count on you guys to deliver on pay-per-view. I'm going to follow up on you and keep telling this story with Stokely. But yeah, there's more to the Stokely part of the whole recruitment. So they need to lose here to make Stokely a little bit more attractive for them to bring him to the fold.
Exactly. And yet again, even though it's a very inconsistent story, But the story of Stokely just being the guy to get these specific talents to a certain place is interesting from a managerial standpoint, because we're so used to managers being with acts for long ass periods of time instead of short periods of time. So it's like it's a different dynamic to play with a manager type. So that's the perspective that I've started to see it recently, where it's like, Stoke is using his wares to get people to a certain place, and it's not that he's fallen off from them. It wasn't a bad breakup. He got them to where he needed to get them to, and they're there. So he's going to do the same thing with Private Party. Will Private Party win tag belts somewhere down the road? Maybe.
I hope so.
Maybe.
I hope so.
But we shall see. As to who should dethrone the Bucks as champs, it's still a wait and see for me, because the tag division's still not as solidified as I would like it to be. But the Bucks do retain.
I'm still on the Outrunners bandwagon. Yeah. Outrunners. You got to strike while the iron's hot.
I don't know why I don't see that happening. They're fun. Don't get me wrong. I love the 80s camp. I love it, man. I love it. The stuff that they did with FTR this past week, hilarious. You know what I'm saying? Great. I don't know if they'll pull that trigger like that with the I don't know. I don't book it, so it is what it is.
We shall see. Next, we got for the AEW Women's World Championship, Willow Nightingale will challenge Mariah May. It was last night on Title Tuesday that Willow Nightingale pulled off the victory over Saraya, Nyla Rose, and Jamie Hayter to become the number one contender for the AEW Women's World Championship and face Mariah May at WrestleDream. Mariah May attacked Willow after the matchup, whipping her with her title belt. But Willow got a measure of revenge by pouncing Mariah May right out of the frame and cutting a great promo that she just defeated 3 former AEW Women's World Champions, and she would make Mariah May another former world champion. Willow and Mariah May have been at each other's throats ever since Willow came and made the save for Yuka Sakazaki back at Grand Slam. She got in the face of Mariah May, who attacked her from behind after she was distracted by Mina Shirakawa. The two women got in each other's face on last week's 5-year anniversary, and they just been at odds, at each other's throat, and this all stems from them being in the finals of the Owen Hart Cup this past summer, with Mariah May beating the 2023 winner Willow Nightingale in that finals. And Mariah May feels that Willow keeps basically losing upward, and she lost the CMLL Women's World Championship, and now she's in the getting a shot at the AEW Women's World title, losing at All Out against Chris Statlander, but still here in Mariah's face. Willow Nightingale is the type of talent that you have to ask, how long can you keep denying her of the top spot? Like, she is kind of like one of, if not the best woman on the AEW roster. And I understand the storyline investment that they put in Mariah May and the build up to her winning the Women's World Championship at All In. But I don't necessarily think Mariah May needs a long title run, considering we had the long title run of Timeless Toni Storm. I think there is more of a shot Willow Nightingale can pick up this victory on Saturday than people will let on. But J-News, what have you thought about the build? Who do you think wins on Saturday?
I mean, it's a consequential build in this case. The reason that's why I say it is because, yeah, they faced off in the Owen. They have that history there. Mariah's been, chastising her on commentary and the beat down at post matches and stuff like that. Love the pounce that she gave. Love the pounce that Willow gave Mariah in backstage. Renee really getting very involved with everything nowadays. So love that for Renee. Yeah, man, I've been a Willow backer since day one, and I feel like she'll be women's champion eventually, just not here. I can't put my finger on it, but they're trying to tell some sort of a story with Mariah. I don't know what it is, right? It's enough that she's a heel, fine, no problem. But I think it's like they're making it there. AEW's making it where all the women are gunning for Mariah, right? because the sense, the win, the character was it's all about Mariah. So yeah, bitch, they all going after you now, right? So it makes sense. So at the end of the day, until we get to Australia Grand Slam, which I think that's where they're going to do the rematch between her and Tony, she's going to have the entire women's locker room hunting for her, right? But that's how she wanted it. And I think the character is going to start to devolve a bit. Like she's going to start to lose it a bit as a why is everybody coming after me type deal. Didn't you want it this way? You know what I'm saying? So I think I think that's where it's going. But from a match standpoint, I need their match to not be slow and plotting. Like that shit he pulled the last two matches with the slow. Nah. Liven up the pace. That shit is.
She was one of the better because she's very hard hitting from her time in Japan, Mariah May. That's why I want more of that. I want more of the Mariah May that we saw in her early matches in 2024 and in the Tony matchup, which was great from a story perspective as well as it was hard hitting. She needs more of that in this Willow match. Yeah, man. And I get that the art form of pro wrestling is between the moves, but there isn't and I guess it's a criticism or whatever the case is. There isn't much she does between the moves. You know what I'm saying? The freaking finger in the fucking mouth shit or whatever, and the jankiness with the fucking crowd. Like that's enough. That to me is typical heel shit. But you're not doing anything more for your character. You know what I'm saying? So unless there's different ideas that they're gonna come up with for this match with Willow, like I need this match to be strong style for women at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? Be it because at the end of the day, that's the way Willow wrestles. Everything is freaking high impact and balls to the wall. So it's like, give me that. If I get another slow plotting match with Mariah in it, like I'm done. Like take the belt off of her. No more Mariah May. Like I'm done or whatever. We're closing up shop.
I'm closing up shop, man. At the end of the day, like she's a lovely young girl. She's good in the ring. But the pace of the match matters. It really does matter. So
I agree. But I haven't really felt like there's been a direction until they started really her feuding with Willow Nightingale. And I feel like you're overexposing her if she is having a long title run heading into Grand Slam. So just to shake things up a bit, I think she should trade the title with Willow. So I'm going to go with Willow winning here, but having there's the theme of Willow Nightingale with title belts since she signed with AEW. She doesn't hold it for long. She's
Mercedes in WWE, son. She got it for like 4 weeks and then she loses.
She'll probably lose the title at Full Gear, but I think that this should be and especially on this show that we need more than just, more than the kind of like downer title changes that we're gonna get that I'm already predicting with Jericho, and then one other title change that I think is gonna happen here. You need one that's a happy ending type title change, and I think Willow winning the title here, and maybe she can hold it for 2 months. She holds it until like World's End, and then Mariah wins it back there, and then Tony comes back to set up the build for Grand Slam. Maybe you can hold Tony off for a couple of more months before she makes her return for a two-time AEW Women's World Champion, Mariah May. I think that to just freshen up the title scene as well, that needs some freshen up and needs a big kind of development right now. I think Willow wins here to become the new AEW Women's World Champion.
I feel like Mariah retains. Alexander Fitzgerald said it. He mentioned Mina. We can't forget about Mina.
That's true.
I get that. That's where we've been trying to get with Mariah, but because it gets lost in the sauce because Mina's not there all the time and whatnot, there's a certain level of inconsistency with it. So it's like, no doubt. In my eyes, Mariah retains. I just don't want a slow plotting match. You know what I'm saying? I don't need her to be Roman Reigns. You know what I'm saying? I don't need her to be Roman Reigns. You know, I need her to bring me some of that Joshi fire. And give me some of that strong style with Willow Nightingale. You know, that's all I want.
Let's go into what should be one of the best matches of the night for the AEW International Championship. Will Ospreay will defend against Ricochet and Konosuke Takeshita. Ever since Ricochet came to AEW at All In, Will Ospreay has been talking his shit about Ricochet, saying that Ricochet's been complacent and he wants him to step up and get a shot at the AEW International Championship. Ricochet went undefeated in singles competition against the likes of Kyle Fletcher, Sammy Guevara, and the Beast Mortos, leading to the 5-year anniversary where he faced Will Ospreay one-on-one. Stellar matchup, but it ended in controversy as both men pinned each other, which led to a restart. But it was Konosuke Takeshita who interfered to cause a no contest to that matchup, setting up the stage for this one. Takeshita has his own history with Will Ospreay. Their match of the year candidate at Revolution is still talked about as one of the best matches of 2024 overall in professional wrestling. But it's been as of late that Will Ospreay has found himself back in the layer of the Don Callis family. It was on the tag team casino gauntlet that Callis cashed in his favor for Will Ospreay, letting him free from the family back this summer. And he cashed in his favor to have him team with Kyle Fletcher. They won the casino gauntlet to face the Young Bucks at Grand Slam in a one of the best TV matches of the year, in my opinion, against Matthew and Nicholas Jackson, where the Young Bucks won due to Will Ospreay not wanting to do things the Don Callis way and stopped Kyle Fletcher from using his screwdriver. This led to Don Callis being upset with Will and sending Takeshita to interfere in this matchup. As we found out on Title Tuesday on AEW Dynamite, Don Callis says, "I've tossed the best wrestler in the world in the garbage before, and he plans on doing it again to Will Ospreay," leading to Takeshita attacking. Kyle Fletcher has been in the middle of all this drama, not really wanting to turn against the Don Callis family, nor his longtime friend Will Ospreay. So a lot of story involved in this with all three of these guys. Can't wait to see Takeshita in the ring with Ricochet as well. So this one should be spectacular. What have you thought about the build to this matchup, the Don Callis family factor in all of this, and who do you think wins on Saturday?
This is where the Don Callis family factors in a good way in AEW because it's helped to create the storyline for Will Ospreay, Kyle Fletcher, and Konosuke Takeshita. Now add Ricochet to the mix. Pretty Ricky knew he out here doing his thing. He won about 3 matches, got himself a shot, drew it up. Now they paired one-on-one. Now it's a 3-way dance. Who's going to win? Who's going to come out the champion? We don't know. All I know is that this particular match right here, this 3-way match is going to be probably the match of the night. Not because of the flippy-dippy shit, but because there's a contrast in styles here that a lot of people don't want to realize, right? Ospreay can do strong style when he wants to. So can Ricochet. And people don't know that because he didn't have to play that damn card over the WWE. But he knows what he's doing. And obviously, Take's the fucking man, dog. Like, what are we doing here? We
Konosuke Takeshita, top 10 in the world, one of the most underrated professional wrestlers in the game right
now. Yo, son, he's somebody's world champion by now. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, oh man, the dude's good. And I wonder how they're going to structure this match and how it's gonna go. I don't know who wins here, to be honest. I don't think Ricochet wins because I think it's too soon for the Ricochet character in AEW to become champion, right? Yeah. So then it leaves me with Will retaining and or, hear me out, Takeshita winning the championship, the international championship, and we get to where we've been wanting to get to between Takeshita and Okada. But they both walk into that C2 final as champions, right? And somebody walks away with all the gold. You know what I'm saying? So you give it even more hype because Takeshi's been deserving of being a champion at some level. You know what I'm saying? So if he takes it from Will here, it makes all the sense in the world. And then it gives Takeshita, it gives Takeshita the play at Okada. Like, you can't keep denying me. I'm a champion now. Like, how when we finna do this? Stop, stop ducking me, fam. You know what I'm saying? Stop ducking me. Like, I'm out here, dog. I got this gold, dog. Let's do this. You know what I'm saying? And he's gonna throw that bone into Takeshita. He's gonna be like, yeah, you can get a shot at this if you win this tournament. You know what I'm saying? So it's like that sort of thing. I see that happening. But I don't know if Takeshita needs to win the international championship right now. Like, if they have some sort of a match that goes into full gear, or if they have to run this back into full gear, cool. He can win it there. But eventually, I feel like Takeshita should be a champion of some sort. But I'm not mad if Takeshita wins here. For my feel, I think Will retains. I feel like Will retains. But I wouldn't be mad if Takeshita wins. And I think Tony has a long-term plan for Ricochet. I'm not sure what it is, but I feel like he has a long-term plan for him. So,
yeah.
But it should be a bang.
I'm going to go with Ospreay to win here. If Ospreay didn't have the detour with MJF becoming the American champion, then this would be the spot to have Ospreay lose the international title. But because he just won the title back at All In, I think he needs to rack up some title defenses under his belt to really kind of further elevate the international championship, which I think he already did with the MJF rivalry heading into All In. But the match with Pac was a match of the year candidate. I expect this to as well, and maybe we can get Ospreay to drop the international title at Full Gear to let him set up his road in the C2 and a reason for him to join in the C2 festivities. So this should be great. This should be great. I'm looking forward to it. Fire Driver Finisher saying, I love Ospreay, and he's been a bit of a bigger star than Konosuke, but it's the perfect opportunity to take the title because one-on-one, I don't see it. Also, Ospreay's run is still gaining traction. Yeah, that's why I'm going with Ospreay to retain. And then finally, it's the match that everybody's looking forward to on Saturday for the AEW World Championship. Bryan Danielson.
Are we looking forward to this?
I mean, I'm looking forward to it because this might be the most interesting outcome of the show, where Bryan Danielson will defend the AEW World Championship against his former tag team partner and stablemate, Jon Moxley. It was at AEW All In that Bryan Danielson kept his career alive, defeating Swerve Strickland in a title versus career matchup, celebrating with his family, finally winning the top prize in All Elite Wrestling. But coming out of that, he did say he was going to hold the AEW World Championship, continue his full-time career until he loses the AEW World Championship. He went on to beat Jack Perry to retain the title at All Out, but post-match, it was Christian Cage, Killswitch, and the Patriarchy coming out to attack Bryan Danielson and cash in Christian's contract, but Jon Moxley and the rest of the Blackpool Combat Club, along with Pac, stood in his way, and then we had the embrace in the ring with Moxley hugging Bryan, but then it was Claudio Castagnoli who delivered the uppercut that shocked Bryan, and it was Jon Moxley that tried to kill Bryan Danielson by wrapping a plastic bag over his head, suffocating him. Bryan was out for a number of weeks before returning at Grand Slam, and at that same show, it was Jon Moxley who beat Darby Allin to become the number one contender for the AEW World Championship, and thus getting a shot in Bryan's home state of Washington. He has been cutting these awesome, masterful pre-tape promos talking about trying to give Bryan a warrior's end by beating him in his home state and burying him in his backyard before ending his full-time career and taking the AEW World Championship. Jon Moxley is undefeated in AEW against Bryan Danielson in their last two matches, back at Revolution 2022 with the birth of the BCC, and then at Grand Slam 2022 when he won his third AEW World title. And now he's looking to get his fourth against Bryan Danielson here at WrestleDream and end Bryan's full-time career. There's also the element of Wheeler Yuta involved in this. Wheeler Yuta has been aligned with Bryan Danielson with the fallout of the Blackpool Combat Club, but Claudio Castagnoli has been playing his mind games, saying that they want Wheeler Yuta on their side and to choose their side instead of Bryan's. So that might become a factor here. It was Bryan and Wheeler Yuta who picked up a victory over Pac and Claudio Castagnoli on Title Tuesday. But in the post-match, it was Bryan brawling and focused on Moxley, which led to Wheeler getting jumped by Marina Shafir, Pac, and Claudio, hitting him in the ribs with the ring bell hammer numerous times. And Bryan fought them all off, but was too busy yes-chanting to not see Wheeler Yuta reaching out for him in the post-match of that. So will that become a factor on Saturday? J-News, the question is yours. What have you thought about the build-up to this matchup? Who do you think wins? I think by far, this has been the exception to the rule. This and the previous matchup with the three-way with the Don Callis story, the exceptions to the rule of the weak build to grant to WrestleDream. This has been a very good, well-done build since All Out.
Yeah, it's like I was saying before, for folks who weren't here earlier, I feel like the talent that is involved in this match have a bit of ownership over this particular storyline. So I feel like I feel like that's the reason as to why there's all this continuity to it, and there's a thread through it all. For all intents and purposes, I side with a lot of the folks in the chat. I do feel like Wheeler Yuta is going to cost Daniel Bryan the AEW World.
Don't call him a slave name.
I'm sorry, Bryan Danielson. I think what we have to think about is, okay, Wheeler turns on Bryan. The how is going to be the important part. Right? How they do it, right? Do they cheapen it by Wheeler low blowing him? Do they cheapen it just by Wheeler making Bryan draw color? How does Wheeler turn on Bryan Danielson is the important part of the storyline into that show, right? Or to end the show, should I say? To end the show. How he does it, I think, is the important part. Secondarily, shout out to the formerly known man, the Negro Buck Nicky Boy in the chat. I get the gripe. I get the gripe with Mox. But the thing is that Mox is much like Seth Rollins. He's like his other brethren from the Shield. He's the de facto man at AEW. When they need to put the title on somebody who they know is not going to do a bad job as champ, they give it to Mox. Right? If Bryan's gonna go take a break because he's no longer full-timer, you might as well give it to your freaking guy who's been champ multiple times, and he's gonna do a decent job with it at the end of the day. It resets the entire main event scene yet again to see as to where as to who, should I say, starts to challenge Jon Moxley and this newly found BCC, this new faction with their new head of operations. Do you have a sense as to who their new head of operations is? Because I have
a lot of people think it's Shane McMahon.
No, I mean that supposedly this week that's been denounced and whatnot.
Yeah, that was announced by Wrestling Observer, I believe, and I'm not sure. I think it was Wrestling Observer. But I think the more interesting one is the fact that Jon Moxley trademarked Switchblade Conspiracy. And maybe it's Sami Callihan, who I may or may not be talking to this week. So,
all right. So fair enough if it is the man who was supposed to be the man behind the hacker, who was originally the man behind the original. What was the name of the faction that Ali ended up being the head of? Retribution.
Retribution. Yeah.
Right. I don't have issue with Sami being that person. I had a wild theory due to how the match ended up and how he thanked Bryan by tapping out. I had a wild theory that it was going to be Nigel for some reason, just to turn things on its head, because it's like, well, Nigel's been involved this whole time. He's been in our faces the whole time, right? And it's like, well, he had his match. He faced off of Bryan. Bryan gave him the feel of, I can still do this. Thank you. Now we're gonna go do the rest of this shit while you lay up somewhere and take a vacation. I'll
let you continue, but I just wanted to answer Negro Buck, who said, why not just give it to Darby? Bryan has said before that he wants to be retired by a Washington native because Darby is a babyface.
Darby's
beating Bryan Danielson, no matter how you want to look at it, that's a heel move.
It is a heel.
That should be done by who you want to be the top heel.
Yeah, it makes more sense for Darby to beat Mox, right?
Yes.
It makes way more sense for Darby to beat Mox.
Yes.
So I think we're gonna get that match again down the road whenever they decide to give Darby the championship. But that's a wild theory that I had. I think that the benefactor, the lead man, is Nigel McGuinness.
I wouldn't mind it. I wouldn't mind it at all.
But to your point, hey, if they do bring in Sami Callihan, that's different. You know, that's different. It is an element of surprise, which is always a plus for fans who are not familiar with certain talent, right? So it's like, okay, that's something they can definitely do. Being that, like you said, John did trademark the whole. What's the name of the faction again?
Switchblade Conspiracy.
Switchblade Conspiracy
may not work with.
It might not work. It might not work. But there's that of it. Like I said, I think the most important points are if they do use Yuta to have Mox win, how Yuta does it is going to be important, right? Because it can't be cheap. It can't be cheap. Will the hammer come into play again, like it did on Tuesday? That's something to look out for. Does the bag come into play again, like it did last event? We don't know about that. It just wait a minute. Call back. So when Yuta bled to be in the BCC, right? Whose fault was it that he bled? Wasn't it Bryan's fault?
No, it was Moxley.
It was Moxley. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So damn, man. I was trying to see if there was a callback to it, but hey, whatever works. I think it's gonna be the hammer at this point. But
yeah, I think the hammer is gonna be a nice little callback to have. We do have another super chat donation from Nicky Boy, the Negro Buck, Nick Jackson. Thank you so much, good brother. We appreciate it. He says, fuck Jon Moxley. He tried to kill my goat. So of course I'm praying on his downfall. Fear the dragon, bitch. I agree with the sentiment. Bryan Danielson is my GOAT as well. But like I said before, I like being right on these previews and predictions. I'm going with Jon Moxley. It felt like last night, I always say, the go home show, you got to pay attention. Who stood tall at the end? And that usually is the person who's going to lose at the pay-per-view. And the fact that Bryan stood tall at the end, it made me feel like even though the buildup hasn't felt like they've been building to the end of Bryan's full-time career, it did feel there that they gave him one more night to stand tall at the end. And then the little red herring of Wheeler Yuta reaching out for him. I think Wheeler is the difference maker, and he helps Moxley beat Bryan on Saturday.
There was also that look that Wheeler gave Bryan when Bryan was raising his hand afterwards. And I was like, oh, no, not the look. Not the look. Oh, damn, man. He's going to get this, bitch, man. He's going to get him. Like I said, the how is going to be super important because if they cheapen it, it's just going to be all for naught at the end of the day. And remember, folks, it's not Bryan's retirement. It is his last match as a full-time wrestler, right? He's not hanging up the boots, but he's not going to wrestle 200-plus dates a year anymore. So what they do here, to my point, is going to be super important because it has to catapult somebody, right? This has to put Wheeler in another freaking stratosphere, right? Because the belt going to Mox makes sense, but it has to do something for Wheeler, right? I think it's obviously done something for Claudio since he's turned in all this,
and it's done something for Wheeler. Wheeler's shown off some of his best character work of his career.
Absolutely. Pac is just Pac because he's a bastard at the end of the day. That's bad. Yeah, man. Yeah. This is going to be an interesting match. How they structure it. the when and the how is going to be important. And I wonder if they have to, outside of Lashley debuting, do they debut anyone else out of this? Does the lead person get revealed here? It makes sense to reveal them here, right? It makes sense.
This
right?
feels like the culmination of what Moxley's been talking about. If there's a lead person behind it, but he's also cut promos where it's more of an idea that he's the mastermind of.
Imagine, I think that'll fall flat, right? If Moxley's eventually the mastermind, it'll fall flat.
No, I think it'll be fine because Moxley's an amazing promo.
No, he is.
He has done some great promo work on the lead up to this match.
And mind you, to your point, he's done some amazing promo work, and also because he's been speaking in riddles, it just makes sense. It'll also make some sense if it's just him, anyways. But yeah. We'll see how it goes.
We shall see how it goes. I'm looking forward to this matchup. Win, lose, or draw, it should be a big one indeed. And I want to thank J-News for joining me today, going out of his wheelhouse of New Japan Pro Wrestling and joining me for the AEW WrestleDream preview here. But don't be alarmed. We will be talking about some New Japan Pro Wrestling this week as me and J-News got to also preview NJPW King of Pro Wrestling, which is this coming Monday, October 14th, live from Ryogoku Sumo Hall. So we'll be back with you, the dynamic duo, this Friday for our King of Pro Wrestling preview. So join us live for that. Same time, same channel, 1:05 p.m. Eastern time. But J-News, until then, the meantime, between time, let them know where they can follow you and when they'll see you again.
You guys can always catch me on the socials, man, on the Instagrams at JohnLYFNMG. Also on the Twitter space, X, whatever you want to call that, jazz, and all that stuff. Catch me every Sunday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with the lovely Dolores as we do our Hit the Ropes podcast live every week, every Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Dolores' YouTube channel. We got to start posting more links for that on the socials, so look out for that. And yeah, me and SP3 will be back on Friday, and then probably sometime during the week to review WrestleDream and King of Pro Wrestling. So look out for that as well. So check me out on there. As always a pleasure to be here on True Hill Heat. So you'll be seeing me soon enough, folks.
Yes, we're doing our review for WrestleDream on Sunday, so feel free to join us for that. J-News, if you're free, if you're available, we'll be here on Sunday to review WrestleDream. I'll be here every day pretty much this week, guys. You can see me tomorrow, 1:05 p.m. Eastern time with AE Ramble, the best AEW Dynamite review in the land with me and Jimmy Macaram breaking down Title Tuesday, as well as some little bits. I did watch NXT, so I will be reviewing that as well. Jimmy Macaram, hopefully at least watch the highlights. And I'll also be back with J-News on Friday for our King of Pro Wrestling preview. Saturday, the True Hill Heat Flagship podcast, 11:05 a.m. Eastern time. Myself, Miss Chrissy Love, and the True Jaw Josh. We might have a special guest joining us as well. And then on Sunday, the WrestleDream review. And we'll figure out when we're doing King of Pro Wrestling review as well. But thank you all in the chat. We appreciate y'all for joining us live. Appreciate y'all if you're watching us on demand. Remember, if you haven't already, drop the thumbs up on the video. Share this video with all your wrestling fans, friends, and family so they can they can show their thoughts on AEW WrestleDream in the comments down below. And of course, join us, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell to stay notified for all the great content here, like our WWE Bad Blood 2024 review that we did earlier this week, as well as Collision Discourse and a Rated Raw review as well. Follow me on the Twitter machine at TrueHillSP3. Follow the gang, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at True Hill Heat. But in the meantime, between time, for J-News, it is me, your True Hill Phenom SP3. This has been our AEW WrestleDream 2024 preview. We are signing off until next time.